Good evening. How is everybody doing? Thank you for joining me on Julia's Just Bitchin channel. Well, hi Scott. How are you? Thank you for joining me here on YouTube. I want to talk tonight about losing family traditions. Um, I come from a big family. 10 brothers and sisters, 30 nieces and nephews. Um, don't I lost track of the great nieces and nephews already. Um, 365-acre dairy farm. I was going to show a picture, but I didn't have a chance to copy it real quick. And we always, growing up on a dairy farm, you didn't have a chance to go out to eat all the time. So we grew a garden. We made our own bread. We hung clothes on the line. That was another picture I was going to. Um, I love about live streams. And I'm doing good, Scott. How are you? How's Ohio? A big change from St. Louis, I'm sure. Um, a lot of different things that the old ways I kind of can relate to the people in the Amish community. I sure like having electricity, that's for sure, but making food from scratch. For example, this is a rhubarb pie. This is a strawberry rhubarb pie that my mom taught me how to make. Another thing my mom taught me how to make, this is homemade bread I'm trying to replicate from my mom. Um, and nobody wants to learn these traditions anymore. Here is one that I created. This is, well, I should say replicated, not created, but replicated. This is strawberry cream cheese crepes, and that they used to sell at IHOP all the time, and they took them off the menu. They don't even have them anymore. So and that's I got the recipe, and they're more like a dessert crepe. I bet you are surrounded by Amish, Scott, in Ohio. Um, and there you always see every time you go out anywhere in Ohio, it's an Amish house when you see laundry on the line in the middle of winter, and the jeans are can stand up by themselves because they're frozen to the clothesline. I'm in a 12 by 30 portable building. I have downsized since I got off of the road and from retiring from being an over road driver and went back to the basics of things. So I'm in my office kind of building. No, I'm not on the beach, Scott. This is just a background for Zoom. That's what I was telling everybody on the first show. I wish I could be on the beach, I don't. You get sand everywhere, though. I used to live on the coast, the Gulf Coast, for about 30 years, and you get sand everywhere. But anyway, I figured this is a good backdrop to use. But back to the building. Yeah, freeze dried laundry. You're exactly right. And and I have another smaller building. So I got the 12 by 30. And then I got next door to it a 6 by 10. So I went and strung clotheslines, about four clotheslines between the two buildings. And I go to, because I don't have my wash machine yet, but I'm going to get a little RV type of wash machine. And I'll definitely do a little video when I get that in. And I go to the truck stop. I do my laundry. It's cheaper than going to the laundromat. And because down here at the laundromat is like 450 for a load, and at the truck stop it's like 250. So for $5, I could do two loads of clothes and bring them home, hang them on the line. And it's so hot down here; it's in the 90s still. In 3-4 hours, everything's dry. And I have maybe 2 loads, not even 2 loads of clothes, one good load of clothes. So I did buy myself a countertop dishwasher because I'd rather do windows, wash windows, than do dishes. So I bought myself a cute little countertop dishwasher, and for just being me and the cats, um, it's good enough. Mainly it's silverware or mixing bowls or something like that that I can wash. And you just put cold water in it, you plug it in, you start it, it heats it up to whatever the temperature is, and it works great for just a few dishes. Now, Scott, I know that you do a lot of cooking. Scott Hatton is my one of my Facebook friends, and he gets me so envious of all the smoking of meat he does, all the cooking he does. He's trying baking cakes. Have you baked any pies yet, Scott? Want to throw an answer in the chat? If you have you had your, I know you have tried your hand at baking cakes, but have you tried any pies as of yet? I'll have to get with you on a cheating recipe for some pies. I just made a peach cobbler, my own version of cobbler. So yeah, definitely let me know if you've tried pies. I know you, like I said, I know you tried cakes. So he's always putting something out on Facebook, and I'm like, dude, you're making me hungry. No pies yet. I cheat. You like to do everything from scratch. I cheat. I get the Pillsbury. It's there again. I'm not good at biscuits, and I'm not good at pie crust. My sister has tried to teach me pie crust. I didn't write down the recipe. I talked to her again. I'm going to have to write down the recipe of how she does pie crust. And but what I did was I have a little convection oven that was one of those Insta appliances. So it's like just a little countertop oven that has one little burner on the ceiling, and it cooked this great. You get the Pillsbury ready-made pie crust that you roll out, and it comes in two, so it's perfect for a double crust. I line my little 7-inch square pan. You could do it any size pan, and I line it with tin foil so it doesn't get yuck everywhere. Then I lay out the pie crust. Then I get peach pie filling, and I got 2 cans of peach pie filling. Dump it in. Then I cut the other pie crust into strips, and then went ahead and did that. Let me see something real quickly. Give me just a second. See if I might be able to bring up that picture real quick. I'm in my broadcasting software, so give me just a quick second. Take me just 2 seconds. Do I got it here? Ooh, drat. Well, it's in one other spot. Let's see. Where'd it go? Well, bear with me. Here it is. That. Put it there. Let me get back into... I know you're seeing all sorts of goofy stuff. I've got all the equipment to make pies from scratch. Maybe this winter I'll give it a try. Yeah, that's what I like to do with making bread. Sorry, I'm reading that out loud. I like making bread in the winter because it gets so hot down here that you just don't want to do it in the summer. So, yeah, let me resize this real quick. So now you're seeing how I do things for the radio show too. Scott, you're gonna have to listen to my radio show if you're not. You know I got that podcast, goofy guy. So I'm cheating, and this is how I also do get everything together for the radio show. There we go. So this is my peach cobbler that I did. the other day, and the crust needed to get done a little bit better, but it turned out really good. I mean, I cheated. So and it's just, shortening, flour, a little bit of salt, and then you have to have a pastry um, blender, and that's with the like a U with the wire and the handle across the top, and it's the pastry blender. That's the best way to do it. You can do it with a fork, beat everything up with a fork, but I think it does better with the pastry blender. And my sister actually bought me one of those. And I cut these strips, and you can be. This is just thrown together. So this cobbler is really just thrown together, like I just said. You can see I laid the stripes down one way, and then I turned around and did it the opposite way. If you want to get real fancy for some kind of holiday party or something like that, you can weave them. Do the one, and then you lay the other one up over it, then down over the other one, and up over the top of the other one, and get real fancy. I wasn't gonna do all that. I was too hungry for cobbler to be all fancy like that, and I just lined the pan with aluminum foil. Now, if you're gonna do that, and especially in that oven, it's at 350 for about 30 to 35 minutes, and I covered the top so it wouldn't get overdone. Oh, you have a dough. No. That's not doing it by hand. That's not from scratch, Scott. You have to. No. That's cheating. You have to do it with the pastry blender. Dough hook for KitchenAid is for bread, because that's more for kneading. For pie dough, I have never used one. I'd love to get a KitchenAid, a little bit out of my price range. Christmas present, people. But I would use that pastry blender. Just doesn't take you a few minutes to get it in little bitty knots, and then you can, once you get it in little bitty balls and stuff like that, you could possibly put it in the bowl with the hook to more like a kneading kind of thing. But you don't want to knead a pie crust like you do bread. So you don't have to, because of the yeast, you don't have to, it doesn't have any yeast in pie dough. Like I said, it's just the flour and the shortening and a little bit of salt, I think. Like I said, I quit trying to make it, so you'll have to look up All Recipes has a good allrecipes.com, good recipes. That's where I got I found for the crepes. The cream cheese filled crepes was on allrecipes.com. So besides cooking, what are some family traditions that you used to do? Now, I'm Polish, so being European, love to cook and everything. Love to, we can drink and we can cook, and you're always hearing about Italians and stuff making a big spread. Well, us Polish can do that too. Yeah, I would just do it for the first time to make it by hand. And then you get it into little bitty beads, and then you go in with your fingers and you knead the dough and stuff. And then you have to roll it out real thin with oh, I'm losing all my words here. A rolling pin, and about not quite paper thin, and then cut it out for the shape of your pie tin or your pan, and then carefully lay it in. So yeah, and then but you always want to cover the top if you're doing a double crust, and then just like a turkey or anything else, you want to cover the top for until about 5 minutes or so from the end of cooking. So if this is 35 minutes, cover it for 30, uncover it, and then it gets nice and brown in the last 5 minutes. You don't have to broil it or anything. Put it under a broiler, just bake it, and then The bottom crust, though, wasn't quite done like I like it. I don't like it as brown as the top, but it turned out good. But like I said, I didn't make the peach filling or anything. Excuse me. So, what other traditions do you have in that you're used to doing besides barbecuing from St. Louis, Scott? As I was saying, I'm Polish, so I we made homemade bread. We made punchki in the no family traditions. Um, but that's a good family tradition to hand down to your son, and then to hand down to like your rubs and this kind of thing with your grilling and your smoking and stuff. That's a good like family secret that I see a lot of men that like to do. We would make punchkis. My mother would make, everybody loves pierogies in spring, before right around Easter time. I can't stand pierogies. I don't eat cheese. I don't like the noodle texture, but I'll eat pot stickers from Japan. I learned how to make Japanese pot stickers or gyoza by hand. So I make those from scratch. My son loves the heck out of those. And that's a tradition that I want to hand down to him. And then, I can hand down to my grandson, who's already 3, thinks he's 10. Little fart. But another one, it was prune roll. My mother would make prune roll. My sister would make all kinds of cheese torts. We had a baked cheese tort, and this was with cottage cheese, rice cottage cheese, and other ingredients in there. Then there was baked, and it was a graham cracker crust. And then you had the frozen cheese tort. You would put Jello in it, and that was always good. I always liked the frozen cheese tort, she called it. And then my sister would make this cream cheese tort, she called it, and would either have cherries or blueberries on top. She would make those again with the graham cracker crust was really easy. Now going back to my pie here, that's my version of my mom's rhubarb, strawberry rhubarb pie. Um, and seeing the two of you, do you share recipes at all, you and your son? Now, my mom's version of a strawberry rhubarb pie, imagine a 9 by 13 pan. Imagine, like I was just talking to you about the peach cobbler, how I had it set up. But my mom would make her own, like a sweet dough pie crust, like, we have a regular pie crust. She would lay it out and make sure she would have extra all the way around the pie, the 9 by 13 pan, and lay all the strawberry rhubarb in filling inside of it, and then take the sides, fold them in on each side of the pan. So she would fold them in on each side, the long sides of the pan. Then the short sides she would flip over, and then bake everything at 350 degrees. And that was and it came out like a cake. And then I have the old 1964 Betty Crocker cookbook that I think my mom swiped the bread recipe from that cookbook, honestly. But she added like 6 eggs to her recipe of baking bread. Now, mind you, my mom was she was 45 when I was born. So when I was coming up through school, she was already in her 60s and still baking bread. And we went through 5 loaves of bread a week. And that was just 3 of us, possibly 4 if my sister would come home. And it was me, my dad, my brother, and my mom. And home, that big bowl is my grandmother's So for the bread, this bowl that you see here, that's my grandmother's mixing bowl. And I used that mixing bowl to make that homemade bread, and that's how much it rose with the raisins in it. And I'm surprised it did. Now, that was in a house that I was renting next door to where I'm at, and I just had to not making the income that I was making when I was driving truck over the road. I just really had to cut back on things. So I downsized and living in it's my original tiny house. And in another episode, I'll show pictures. I'm having to put a ceiling in here in the next month, finally, before winter hits again. I've had this building. I had it as an office. Now I just turned it into like an office and a apartment. And I'll share pictures of that before and after when I'm doing the ceiling. I like to have this channel just to talk about all kinds of stuff, from stupid stuff to recipes to old traditions. I mean, I could eat punchkas all year round. Not saying that I just lost 50 pounds with this new job that I had, because I gained 60 pounds driving a truck. So I went back at the weight that I was when I started some years ago. But I could, all that homemade good cooking that we don't get anymore. I'm so tired of Taco Bell, Hardee's, Burger King, on and on. The list goes on and on and on. And I just got to thinking that even hand-me-downs, like end tables or china closets or anything, the good antiques that my mom had, nobody wants them. So it's like, now I'm stuck with them. I don't have a lot, but it's enough. Everybody wants the china, and I have my stoneware. It's like, remember Scott, the old false-graph stoneware from JCPenney? That it was the yellow color with the brown ring on it. Hold on a second. Hold on, I'll be right back. So this is, and this has to go. So if you could see that, there we go. That's the set that I'm talking about. And it just faded out. I got like a dozen. You remember that stoneware? I've got salad bowls. I've got cereal bowls. I have sandwich plates. I have coffee cups. I have coffee mugs. I have water glasses. I have bread plates. I have coffee saucers. I have the meatloaf container to bake in. I have a soup tureen because God love my sister. I had just a set of 4. She had a set of 8. So I got a set of 12. Because we went ahead and combined the 2 sets. So I still have those that I have to do something with eventually. I'm using them. I love my stoneware. In the 6x10, that's another project that I have. In the 6x10 building, I'm going to go ahead and make like a little kitchenette along one wall. And I'm going to have this, because it's only 7 foot tall, not even, I'm going to get the small cabinets that like go over a refrigerator. And I'm going to put 3 of those along one wall, so then all my dishes can fit in there. I'll have one lower cabinet for a countertop, and then I'll put electric stove. And that'll be my little kitchen area, and it's like 10 steps away. Because in this building, because it's only 12 foot wide, the desk that I'm using takes up half the building. So it's like 6 foot, not even. But it's a big hutch, it's an L shaped desk, and yeah, it took up all the room along with another cabinet and my TV. Well, that's a quarter of the building that's, gone. And then I have a shower, and then right next door is my bed, and it's full. So I got another couple small cabinets in here, and that's hence why I have the background, so you don't see my mess. Hey, at least I'm honest about it. You don't see my mess anymore. But or even some other family traditions was like my dad, teaching me how to work on cars. I've been working on cars since I was 15. And he had fingers, no shit, this big around. Maybe you could see that. And maybe over here to the other hand. There you go. Something like that. And then I disappear. That's what's nice about this thing. I can disappear. His fingers are huge. And it was arthritis. And he couldn't get the... That's fine. I appreciate you popping in. I greatly appreciate it. You're great. Thank you so much. And you can always watch the rest of it later on. I'll have it up on the YouTube channel. So please subscribe. That would be awesome. Thanks so much. And it's great chatting with you. About time. We've been back and forth for years, liking stuff and everything. So it's good chatting with you. And you're still working. What do you mean you're still working? What do you mean you're going to get up at 5 in the morning? You're retired, aren't you? With me working nights, though, I'm so used to being up from 6 at night, 6 in the morning, that, now I'm like wide awake, and at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, then I want to go back to, I want to go to bed. But back to the mechanicing, I've been mechanicing, working on cars for over 40 years. The new ones are a lot more complicated to work on than the old ones. I mean, I'll take a 57 Chevy with 354 barrel in it and 4 on the floor. And thank you so much for subscribing, Scott. And you have a good evening and get some sleep for me. I'd take one of those, the old 57 Chevy, any day. And, or, any of the old cars compared to the new ones. They're all plastic anymore. It's those kind of traditions that are welding, Now kids, like Mike Rowe was talking about with the Mike Rowe Foundation is, it's a hard time getting the younger generation into the trades. Pouring concrete, welder, pipe fitter, plumber, anything like that. And that would be, that parents would hand down to you back in my day. It's not only just baking and cooking and things like that, but it's also the work ethic too. It's just not there anymore. They're entitled. Good night, Scott. You have a good night. They're just... And to me, this channel is my personal opinion and my personal opinion only. And if you agree, agree. If you don't. I don't care. This is my channel to rant, what have you. I'm working with a few 25-year-olds. One she refuses to fuel up a truck. Just flat refuses. Another one finally got him into the habit of fueling up a truck. That's part of your job. You don't leave the next shift in the lurch. You get your tasks done in that shift. In your 12-hour shift, get as much as you can done. And if they just keep pounding you, well, then there's nothing you can do. But you also make time to fuel the truck. when you start your shift, you check the oil, you check the coolant, you check the transmission fluid. You just don't hop in it and go. It just don't do it. Okay? Because you wouldn't like it if somebody left you with a half a tank of fuel and you're going to have to stop at fuel. Oh, I bet what she would do? She would turn around and then park the truck when it's empty, jump in a second truck, and then go take off and run that one out of fuel. Because I don't even think she knows how. So, anyway, just the old and missing the good old days. I just miss the good old days. People used to be considerate. People used to help you out. Not only in truck driving, farming, being neighborly. You know, they would be there for you. Now you can't even get them to wave. Maybe back in my hometown, because it's smaller than the town I'm living in. It might be about the same size, but you know, down here I don't. Where I live, I don't know anybody. I live in the woods. Don't want to. It is Southern hospitality. I do know. Got a few. I shouldn't say even a few. I got a couple of people that if I really needed the help, they'd be there for me. But it's only like two or three, and those are the people that you know you could really count on. And it's just sad. It's just sad, in my eyes, of losing the family traditions, losing when you used to hand down stuff, whether it's wedding dress, old mixing bowl, coffee pot, you know, about the Colonial Penn Life Insurance Company, or she's using her mother's coffee pot, the old percolator. Mom used to have electric percolator back in the day, and I feel old, you know, reminiscing about those kinds of things. Making applesauce from scratch with the old apple grinder. And then we had to peel the apples by hand and peeling potatoes by hand. And the whole homemade mashed potatoes, homemade chicken soup. I still make homemade chicken soup though. And with the homemade noodles, in Polish we call it kluski. Kluska noodles. Kluska. I should have paid more attention when my mom was cooking. I did help her a lot in the kitchen when she was cooking, honestly. I was the one when my mom would make punchki, it was a sweet dough, and you would flatten it out to something about that big, and then she would make this sweetened prune jam. That's what she loved. And then you would roll it up she'd make it a baseball, and she'd make the damn baseball about that big around, and deep fry it. And then when it would float up to the top, she always told me, and she had the biggest wire screened spoon for dipping into the grease or the oil and pulling out the punchki. And it was just perfect. It was just as big as her punchki, and she could, and they would float up to the top, and she would make some plain without sugar coated on the outside, because my dad didn't like granulated sugar, but he would have it in his coffee, but he would have honey in his tea, and then she would keep the sugar bags because they're double insulated. So she'd keep a sugar bag. She would take about a half a cup of sugar, put it in the bottom of, just dump it in the bottom of the sugar bag. Then she would drop the hot punchki in the bag one at a time. And then that was my job to shake it. Make sure you get all the sugar all the way around it. She would go. And then I'd caress your hands are washed and everything. There was no plastic gloves back then. I'd take it out, set it aside, set it on a paper towel. And so the grease would, drain off, and make dozens of them every year. And then it would be her prune roll. Now shout out to my sister Veronica. She still makes the prune roll. And there again, that's a sweet dough. and then you take your sweet jam, prune jam, and layer that. Whoops, excuse me. Layer that on top of the laid out dough, and then you would roll it. It's just kind of like a you see the sponge cake with that fruit filling on the inside. Well, this would be just like kind of like a sweet pie crust, but a little bit thicker, and a sweet dough, she would call it. And then roll it up into a loaf, put it in a loaf pan, and bake it, I think, for like an hour. And because it's so many layers that you'd have to bake it all the way through. I miss those days. Nobody makes it anymore. Um, Sorry, my sister and I don't get along that well. That I can't. I'd have to go to Wisconsin to Milwaukee and have to set up a day and set up the time and get the ingredients, and it'd be a whole week. Um, and we can only and love her dearly, but we can only take each other in small doses. I'm just being blunt honest. So I've left Wisconsin, been in Mississippi over 30 years, and I just go back for visiting every once in a while. I was going to try to go back for the fall ride in September, and I had to cancel. So I'm going to stay home and get my ceiling done. My hot water, I got a 7-gallon point of use hot water heater, and it's leaking. So I have to cut all the pipes, change all that. Well, my inlet and outlet on the hot water heater is on the side. And the new ones that they cut, and it is 12 years old, so it's going to take a crap. So I understand that. And then my new hot water heaters, the inlet and outlet's on the top. So then I'm going to have to re-pipe everything. And yes, I know how to do that. This building, I helped pipe it, I helped wire it, didn't help panel it. My ex-husband paneled it for me, and then I'm finding some ceiling stuff, and I won't tell you exactly what it is right now, but when I do that video of how I'm going to do the ceiling, then you will find out. So stay tuned for that. I'm mechanically inclined, and I love doing those kind of projects. Again, my dad taught me a lot. My mom taught me about cooking. My dad taught me about, outside stuff, taking care of stuff, fixing stuff. And I took a personality test, and it said that I'm a virtuoso, and that I love taking things apart to put them back together again to see what makes them tick. And I've been doing that since I was a kid. I used to take apart alarm clocks to see, what's inside there, what makes it tick, what makes it tick, and put it back together, and actually worked. So then I was really interested in working on cars. Well, the magazines that I was only allowed to uh, look at when I was growing up, I didn't have, all these kid magazines and teen magazines and GQ and Good Housekeeping and all this kind of stuff. Mom would like Good Housekeeping every once in a while. She would like to look at it. I looked at popular hot rodding magazines and Motor Trends and Popular Mechanic, and I knew a born out piston or born out cylinder heads and honing them, and the working on the pistons and the gap of the pistons, and I learned all that stuff first, and then I learned about interior design and decorating later on in life. So I've always been around it. When we're growing up on a farm, and that's what you're gonna do. You have to fix stuff. You can't have a mechanic on call to when the hay baler goes or the tractor goes, or my dad made the log splitter that, shout out to my brother Jim, he's still using, and he's teaching his grandkids how to use. I used to help my dad with that log splitter. So it's really neat to see that kind of stuff. And he split big elms as big as a screen. They're huge. We used to go up in the woods and split logs and bale hay. My dad and I worked together a lot. Miss the man a lot. Miss Mom. She was a pain in the butt in her old age, but miss her a lot. As far as the baking, that's one of the toughest things, is seeing your parents age and remember them doing a polka or dancing on the 50th wedding anniversary, or walking church hand in hand, and then all of a sudden dad's gone, and then mom's alone, and then and she learned how to drive. She drove very little because she had me, and as soon as I turned 16, I was her chauffeur and chauffeured her around everywhere. I've got well over 5 million miles on this body, and people wonder why the heck I retired from over the road, because I'm tired. I'm tired and I'm retired. And that's going to be another show, is the driving aspect. But just, like I was saying, miss the old days, miss the family traditions. The more older I get, the more I really appreciate the Amish. Yeah, they take pride in their work. Making furniture, making their jams and jellies, making whatever they're gonna make. They take pride in their work, and they sewing and making their own clothes. I still sew from time to time. It just you're getting old. I don't feel it mentally. I can definitely tell. I'm a lot like my mother. She was in her 70s and 80s, and she still felt like she was in her 60s. I still feel like I'm in my 30s and 40s most days. Now, when the rain sets in, the barometer drops, yeah, then I'm feeling like I'm 90. But I don't think I look too bad for 61. But now at my age, if on the dating scene, 61, they're looking like a grandpa. The guys that are good looking are in their 50s. Well, they don't want an old granny. They don't want somebody that's 10 years older than them, even though I'm mentally their age. It's like 61. I don't want to date somebody that old. So you're kind of stuck. You don't want somebody your age because the white hair and all this kind of thing, and they're just, I don't know. Maybe they're young at heart like I am too, but I don't know. The pictures that I see, I'm like, yeah, no. It's like flip to the left, even though this is backwards, so it should be this way. But it just, I don't know. Like I said, I really miss the old days. I thank you, everyone, for watching. I thank you for caring enough to stop what you're doing and take a look at this video. I hope all of y'all have a good evening, and I'll post a little bit sooner of when I'm gonna hop on here again and chat about something else. So y'all take care, have a good night, and until next time.